First, the second day of the teaching. Last night in Tekar Gomba's one person of Tekar Monastery passed away. His name was Yuanten Lodu. Lodu Yuanten. He passed away. Therefore, for him, because Tekar Gomba is very kind to all of us, has been very helpful. It is said that if an old man of the village dies, then we have to mourn for 3 days. That's the Tibetan proverb. For him, we recite Amani Peme Hong for him. Ga zo zo je je ola je zo je jen jen dola. Shere zela shanza lo Amani Peme 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 Shiba me ba yo la le la be le da la san je nyo do yo The Kadampas great masters said that and if you don't have the lojong, then it's like a painted lamp. So if we don't, if those people who are supposed to be Dharma practitioners, if they don't train their mind, then their mind will become the painted lamp does not have any light, so it cannot work to dispel the darkness. The actual light, the actual lamp can dispel the darkness, but not this one. So if you cannot transform your mind by training in the nature of mind, then the practice of Dharma doesn't work. It doesn't. So what do you mean by Chu, Dharma? Chu, in Tibetan, means actually to transform. To chu means to change, to transform, to make changes. So if you change, if you kind of transform, but to mind, you cannot change it by hammer or by pixels. So you have to find antidote to your negative emotions. Like we need to take medicine as an antidote to your disease. So in the same way, we have to find an antidote to the negative emotions. So slowly the negative emotions should become smaller and smaller, or less powerful, so that we are able to control them, we are able to deal with them. So all the teachings or studies, the reflection and practice, all has to go there. Dusum Chemba said that through the wisdom of listening or study, you need to learn to understand what is the nature of mind. And through the wisdom of reflection, you have to kind of control, you have to be able to control the negative emotions. And through the wisdom of meditation, you have to uproot the negative emotions. Because the thing that disturbs the mind, that makes it unpeaceful, that makes trouble to your mind, is the kleshas, the negative emotions. So therefore, it is very important to have some antidote to that. So all the teachings of the Dhamma is a method to subdue, to work on these negative emotions. And if that happens like that, then the Dhamma becomes a Dharma, the instruction becomes, worthwhile or useful, it is true advice. Otherwise, this is the Tibetan example, like you put the ghost in the east and throw the torma in the west. And in Tibet, there's some kind of, there's like De and Lu and Sen, and so you make offerings to them. You make an effigy of a human being, and then kind of as your own kind of representative, you kind of try to cheat these spirits, and then you kind of offer this to the spirit. This is old custom. But if that spirit was in the east, then you throw the torma into the west, so it wouldn't work. So in the same way, so to make it more easy to understand, the target is in the east, but you shoot the gun into the west, then it wouldn't work. It's like that, it is said. The great masters of the Kadampa of the past, they have also this system of counting the marbles, or the kind of taking marbles, white marbles and black marbles. Checkmate. Checkmate. This is checkmate. Chess. Chess.
This is not English class.
There is a kind of a game. There's a black and the white. Maybe he's talking about chess. When a positive thought arises in your mind, then put a white marble, and then a negative thought arises, then put a black marble, and then at the end of the day, you see which is bigger, whether it's more white pebbles or more black pebbles. So if there is too many black pebbles, then you kind of look at yourself, you chide yourself, and say, you are really not so good. You kind of you should not be like this. You tell yourself. Then if there are more white pebbles, then you have to appreciate yourself. You have to congratulate yourself. And tomorrow it will be even better. I should make it even better. My courage to do positive things should become stronger. I should be more enthusiastic. I should be more positive. So, so, so today I did this to. I did this antidote for this particular negativity. And in this week, I did this antidote for that negative thing. I need to do like this. I need to. We are supposed to be meditating. I should be doing lots of practices. Should be visualizing the the deities. But in 1 year, do we really have that kind of a thing? That I did this antidote for that problem. Do we have anything like that? We have 360 days, 12 months. I did this. I have done this antidote for that particular problem, or I did this practice in order to work on this negative emotion. Did I do this? If I don't do that, then I cannot improve. There is no way that I could advance. So if that is like that, then the days go by, the months go by, the years go by, and there is no enhancement, there is no change, no transformation. So this is the special place in Bodh Gaya, the special time of 900th year of Karmapa's, first Karmapa's birth. And we have here great many great masters, many practitioners, many all this together we have gathered here. So we have to think in a different way. We have to act in a different way. We have to kind of make a special kind of effort to do the practice, so that we really transform, we really change, and not something like it goes on and nothing. There's a saying that in order to benefit, beings, there's a Tibetan saying, the Dola Pensha Sanjana. It's a kind of a strange. This is a special Tibetan kind of saying, for the benefit of beings, and then. But it doesn't mean that for the benefit of beings. It means that you just do it without having any actual doing. So it's the meaning of this is that it's easy to say it, just for the sake of beings. But then actually there's no action. So this is then become like this Dola Pensha. Dola Pensha means it's just saying that for the sake of beings, but you don't actually do anything. But you recite that may all beings have happiness and free from suffering, and we say that may there be intolerable kind of a compassion arise in me, as if there is a kind of a fire burning in your heart, but there's nothing happening actually. So these are just using our words too much traditional, but nothing really happens to change ourselves. They do it like this. Then there's an insect comes, and then you just kill it. It should not be like this. Maybe you should say, please go away. Maybe you should do like this. I don't know. We should try to little bit transform and change our mind, and that's very important, I think. Generally, for Buddhist practice is to do positive things with the body, speech, and mind. The positive deeds of body, positive deeds of speech, and positive deeds of mind. But the positive deeds of the body, and then what positive, every positive thing should be that something that you intentionally do it, something that you do it with, real intention or intentionally. It's not just happening. Like not killing. It's not that it is not just happen to be not killing is not enough. It's something that I do not kill. You say I do not kill. You intentionally kind of make an decision not to kill, and then there is the positive deed of not killing. I make a decision. That kind of the decision, strong kind of commitment should be there, and then there is this positive deed of not killing. I just not being, and also non-violence is not just that everything happens to go well and you don't make any conflict, not like that. So therefore, all the positive deeds of the body and speech also has very strong connection with your mind. The essence, the point, actually goes back to the mind. So therefore, to kind of talk to your mind, to advise your mind, to look at your mind is very important. You have to counsel your mind. Yeah. Yeah, some kind of consultation. Then you give your good kind of ideas and check up your mind. The Buddha Shakyamuni gave a most important method to work on our mind. So whether we use it or not, it depends on ourselves. The Buddha Shakyamuni doesn't sit with us all the time. He said that you are your own Lord, you are your protector, you are your own savior. There is no other one who can save you. Your own future, you have to make yourself. You have to give yourself the gift of a good future. So if you can't think about this yourself, then your practice becomes like a lamp which is painted. It doesn't have any real function. So if you take it to the to the darkness, it wouldn't work. So if you look from outside, you look like a Brahma practitioner, but actually there's nothing. There's no Dharma in it. It's just like a painted lamp. You react in the same way, like without Dharma. So therefore, we need to change our personality. Some people say that this is my personality, this is the way I am. That's an excuse. And then you just, your life just goes by without making any changes or any improvement. Because your personality is not good, it's rough. Because because it is like this, therefore we need to work on it. We need to change it. And so therefore this.
로정면에 리뮤마면 수질면은 남매 때만다 수질면은 남보면에
If you don't have the the chultim or the shila, good conduct, then it's like a natural resource or the treasure without honor. Like there are lots of natural resources, there's gold and silver and all sorts of oil and everything like that. Whatever positive deeds you do, like giving or anything else, if you do it with the discipline, with this kind of good conduct, then it becomes a basis for be reborn into positive, kind of life forms. If you do positive actions without the basis of discipline or the good conduct, if you do that, if you sow the seed of any positive deeds on the soil of disciplined or good conduct, then it will create positive lives and positive, results, because it is said that the real cause, the true cause, there's only cause for positive life forms is the discipline or the good conduct. This, I have a thought of myself about this. To receive a positive life form, the higher realm form, so you have to really abide by good positive conduct or the discipline. I don't know, but this is my understanding. The chultim or the shila is, like for instance, the Vinaya, it is about the body and mind, how to conduct the body and mind in a positive way. So body and speech are like to act in a beautifully or nicely your body, and to say nice and beautiful words, and do more positive deeds of the body and speech. Then in the next life also you have a beautiful body, and you have a good and beautiful melodious voice. But if you only have a good thought, or only have a then maybe it's not so easy to get a positive birth, rebirth. So therefore, the discipline is very necessary to be reborn into positive and higher realms. So therefore, you have to not only think, or you not only have good thoughts, but has to act on it. Important thing is to have this form of body and speech actions. So if you have that discipline or positive kind of action, then you have the honor, something that the treasure have its honor. It's like that. So you can actually use it. You can actually enjoy the result of those treasures. If you don't abide by the good conducts or the discipline, then next life maybe you will go into bad kind of negative form of life, like a hungry ghost or the helldom. So then you cannot really enjoy the benefit of these positive deeds.
냐외 때는 가르쳐야 한다. 냐외 때는 근데 집에 롱주는 롱수 제 집에야지 이기 말아.
So therefore, it is even said that sometimes the hungry gods, some of the hungry gods are very rich, but they cannot actually enjoy those riches. So it is because of that. If you have, if you don't, discipline yourself, you do not act in a positive way, then other positive deeds doesn't result into something really that you can enjoy. So this life, we have all a very good life. We are very fortunate. We have all this, the company of great beings and all the positive things here. So we should continue the practice so that in the future also it will become better and better. It is said that if a person kind of the legs of Shila is broken, then even if you have made some positive deeds like giving, it will not ripen into getting a positive kind of a life form. So therefore, it's very important to have the discipline or the good conduct or positive conduct or Shila. It is said that the honor of the meditation is the renunciation, and all the positive deeds, the honor or the something that is the basis or the ground is the Shila. So then, if that Shila is there, then everything goes well. Everything grows on that. So today we do this the refuge ceremony. For those excellent living beings who desire supreme enlightenment, I shall explain the perfect methods taught by the spiritual teachers. The main kind of address, the main audience of this text is the Mahayana people. So people who really want to attain supreme enlightenment, Buddhahood. So these teachings which came through the oral tradition of my really great teachers, these different, methods, the perfect methods that I have received, I will give it here. We talked about this 5 methods, skillful means like refuge, etc. So first is the refuge. The refuge is going refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Look at the Buddha as the teacher, Dharma as the path, and the Sangha as the company. Like if you want to live your life in the proper way, you need some elements. The first is good guidance by your parents. Then you have to go to the school, and then you have to receive teachings or the guidance from the teacher. Then your body develops, and the mind develops. Your strength of the mind and the body kind of grows up, and then you can become an independent human being. So you have to have good parents, good guidance of the parents, and the good guidance of the teachers, those who are very kind to you, who was his guide, good guide. These are very important for you. First brought up by the teacher, then you study well, then when you kind of do all this, then you have to work, and then you have to find your own kind of future, that you have to be responsible for yourself, your own experience, your own kind of efficiency, your own intelligence. Based on all these, you have to find your future. So the life is not just like passing the days, but you have to find you also need friends in your body. You have to find life partners if you are a householder to kind of work together. Then you can say that, okay, now my life is kind of okay. There is some hope that your life will go as you wish. In the same way, to get liberated from, we haven't attained the liberation. The liberation is not like it's somewhere in the east and then we are in the west, and so it's a long way to go and we have to walk. It's not like that. It's not that we have to go somewhere very far, somewhere different place. We call it a path because it is just like as an example. The purpose is to attain the enlightenment or to attain the liberation. Dharma means like liberated from the suffering. You have to be liberated from your sufferings. What do you mean by liberation from suffering? Sometimes we say, how to say this? We usually, what we feel, this happiness, what we look and recognize as happiness nowadays is a very temporary happiness, because just now we are happy, but in another moment we can be unhappy. It's like the democratic, the leaders of the democracy. So you have a vote, and then you are elected as the president or the prime minister for a while. Then you lose the election, and then you kind of drop, you fall down. So our happiness of this world, samsara, is very changing, is very uncertain. But we need a lasting happiness, They're always happy, always, no problem. We need something like that. So that's our purpose, that's our aim, that's our objective. So that, when we call liberation, that is the lasting peace and happiness. So what is that? So we cannot buy this great happiness, free from suffering or lasting happiness. It's not outside there because the suffering is in your mind. The experience of suffering is your mind. Is the the stones and the earth doesn't have suffering. The stone cannot suffer. So the suffering has to be somebody who has a being, who's a mind, who has experience, feeling. Therefore, so the unhappiness, suffering is an experience. That's a result. That result, that the cause of that, the Buddha said that it is the karma and klesha, or the mind poisons. Because we have the kleshas, we have the negative emotions, and therefore we act in a negative way, and therefore we get the result suffering. So therefore we have to work on the cause that is negative emotions, because negative emotions is actually, because of the negative emotions we act in a negative way. So therefore we have to work on the negative emotions. The klesha, nyumumpa means like something that makes you tired, makes you miserable. You make weak, you make miserable. So that's why we call it nyumumpa, the klesha. So what is the methods to pacify these kleshas? So there's the main thing is to find the methods to pacify these kleshas. So who knows that? That's the Buddha Shakyamuni. 2000, more than 2,500 before. If you look back, 2,500 years, the Buddha Shakyamuni first, he was a prince. Very luxurious. He was, everything was there. It was prosperous. But one day, he looked at it. He was outside the palace. Then he saw the birth, old age, sickness, and death. Somebody who is giving birth, somebody who is very old, and then he also saw a person who was a monk, renounced. So he saw these three things first: somebody sick, somebody old, and somebody dead. And then the fourth, he saw a monk. And then why is this person this? And then he said that he has renounced the world and he wants to be free. Then he kind of gave up his kingdom, went into the forest, and for 6 years he made lots of efforts. Then at the end he himself found that not too much ascetic, not too much enjoying the senses. So he found the middle path, and then he became enlightened. And after becoming enlightened, what do you mean by enlightenment? Is that he understood, he completely understood what's the way it was. The Buddhahood is like that. They really understood completely what it was. That's why we said there are two kind of persons who have the mind. One is Buddha, one is the samsaric person. And the mind that the Buddha has is called yeshi, the jnana. And the mind that the samsaric people have is the same, namshi. Why you have two names for this? The Sangye's, the Buddha's mind is called yeshi because it's ye means right from the beginning, primordial, the way it naturally is. You understand that. You know how the things really is. And the namshi, the mind of the samsaric being, you just see the number means the form. You only see the form. You understand the kind of the structure of the form. There is an example. I used to understand this through an example. The example is like this. The Buddha, if the Buddha had some danger, some suffering, he wouldn't feel bad because he knows what is the nature. For a sentient being, for a samsaric being, if there is some danger, if there is some thing, then we will feel very bad. We will have suffering because we only know we only see the appearance of it. We don't understand the nature of it. That's why. One day, the Buddha was going for alms with his begging bowl. Then he arrived in front of a house, and then the family kind of the person came. He was kind of maybe a little bit angry. So he said bad things to Buddha. These monks, these sannyasis, you are always bothering us. You don't work. You don't. You are. Then Buddha said, it doesn't matter. Because Buddha didn't reply. So he scolded them, he said bad things, and then he got a little tired. Afterwards, then the Buddha said, you have now finished saying things? And then he said, yes, I finished. Because he was tired. Then Buddha said, now I say something to you. If you give somebody something to somebody, if you give, then what does it matter? If that person doesn't receive it or doesn't accept it, then what happens? And then the Buddha said that what you gave me, I don't need it, so you please take it yourself. What we usually do if somebody insults us, we would immediately reply. Because Buddha knows what the nature is. If somebody tries to do something bad things, I don't need to accept it. I don't need to carry it. So he knew that. So therefore, but the way we will react, if somebody says bad things to us or somebody do bad things to us, we accept that, we make it ourselves even more unhappy and more suffering, and then it will make us unhappy. So we are the monks, so our way of living is like this. Because Buddha knows the nature of the things, so he didn't have to do that. He is not deceived by his, the conditions that's created now. Because we would think that I must reply. I have to say something. I have the right to reply. These things we will think like this. But Buddha knows that that's not necessary. It's not it's not the way. So therefore, he doesn't need to take the suffering on. So therefore, he knows how to be free from this. They said the appearance is very good at deceiving us. So we can get deceived very easily, but we don't know that we are get deceived. Because we only see these appearances. We don't. That's why we are korwa. We are samsarik. Because we only see the appearance, therefore it makes us suffering. It affects us in a bad way. Buddha understands the nature of these things clearly, everything. So therefore, he doesn't need to be suffering. He doesn't need to. So therefore, the Buddha knows this, and the Buddha gave the teachings. So that's the teaching. That's the path. So the Buddha shows the way how to do this. That is the path. And then the Sangha is the Gevishinye, that the Sangha can be also the Buddhas and also the lower Sanghas also. The Gevishinye means the positive friend. Gevishinye actually means positive friend. When we relate to a teacher, it's very important to see them as as a friend, Dharma friend. Some people are very afraid of Lama. It's very, oh, I can't go to the Lama because I'm afraid of the Lama. I don't know why. They should see them as your friend, as a positive friend, as a Dharma friend. Somebody who helps you on Dharma, with Dharma, a good friend. You have to be, you have to have a kind of a good friend, feeling of a good friend who is really helping you, good intentions, who can help you, who has the wisdom to help. Somebody that you can trust. If you cannot be a trustworthy friend, then you cannot be Gevishinyin or the. First, before you know that he is your teacher or he's your spiritual friend, then you have to see that whether he can be a good friend, a positive friend or not, a trustworthy friend or not. It's this. To find a good Lama is also slowly. It's a step by step. It's not like you are not even fully awakened, but you say this is Lama, this is not, and then afterwards you say bad things about Lama. That's not good. It's a Dharma friend, working together on the path. Have a good samaya. That's very important. We make this promise to be friendly with all the sentient beings throughout the space. That we say, but at least we have to be friendly with the people who are around us, who are our Dhamma friends, who are together. If we can't do that, how can we be friends with all the sentient beings? So you take the Buddha as a teacher, Dharma as the path, and the Sangha as your teacher, as your guide, as your friend. So in order to get the liberation, you need a really good teacher. Then you need methods or the right kind of way or the method. So in order to go through this path, you need a good friend. So therefore, I need the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha till I attain enlightenment or till I die. This is what I have to think. So I will give you the refuge. Whether you think properly or not is up to you. So first, in the beginning, whether you are a Buddhist or not, there are many different ways of distinctions. There, some says that if you have refuge, then you are Buddha. So others, the four signs of four seals. But the Dipankara said that whether you have refuge or not, kind of, and not just the refuge, but you have the vow of refuge, then you are a Buddhist. To make some kind of a decision. There are kind of two things. One is just, I go refuge to Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. But because I go refuge to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, so I would like to work on this. There's two things. Just refuge and having the vow of the refuge. There's two different things. All the monks already have refuge. And also those general people, those who want to take refuge, please kneel on your knees. There are many different ways of kneeling, but maybe it doesn't matter. I would not make a fuss about it. If you cannot kneel in your with your knees, if due to some physical problems, then do it in your mind. It's not necessary that if you have kneeling, then you have respect. So you just repeat after me now, the refuge prayer. So sometimes I read in many languages, but it doesn't work because it just shows as if I'm boasting to know many languages. So I say it in Tibetan, so you all repeat in Tibetan. Please repeat after me in Tibetan. Loben, Gonsuso, Da, Tu, Dine, Zonde, Jisi, Soye, Pardo, Sanjela, Japsu, Chivo, Chuela, Japsu, Chivo, Gindunla, Japsu, Chivo, Loben, Gonsu, So, Da, Tu, Dine, Zonde, Jisi, Soye, Pardo, Sanjela, Japsu, Chivo, Chuela, Japsu, Chivo, Gindunla, Japsu, Chivo, Loben, Gonsu, So, Da, Tu, Dine, Zonde, Jisi, Soye, Pardo, Sanjela, Japsu, Chivo, Chuela, Japsu, Chivo, Gindunla, Japsu, Chivo. So feel that you have received the vow of the refuge. Now please sit down comfortably. Then the it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable to give the Upasaka vows now in the same, the monks do not have to take the Upasaka vows. Those people who want to take Upasaka vows among the lay people, after we have finished the second session, then I'll give you separately, make a separate arrangement for you to receive the Upasaka vows. Then I will explain that also later on after you have received that. It will be done in the evening after the second session. So there are some people want to receive names after receiving the refuge. So it is difficult to give names to all these people, different names. I will talk with the people who arrange. If it can be arranged, then you will get names. If it cannot be arranged, then I have to say I'm sorry. There is no other way. Now you have received the vow of refuge. So now it is very important to know how to train in the refuge. So now let me tell you something about the refuge. The first, there something you from the negative, what you give up, and something you work on. There are two. So the first, what to give up, what not to do. So we are, because we are samsaric beings, we have lots of faults, so we have to. So by going refuge to the Buddha, you don't go refuge to the worldly deities. That's the, not to do. First, by going refuge to the Dharma, then you don't harm beings. By going refuge to the Sangha, you don't accompany or you don't associate with negative friends. And now to explain them one by one. After you go refuge to the Buddha, maybe Gevishin Sharava said, generally it said after going refuge to the Buddha, not to go refuge to the worldly deities means It's with really from the heart, from the depth of the heart, you go refuge to. Sometimes sometimes it is said that you should not make prostrations to the royal deities, you should not make offerings, but that's not so. It's from the heart, from the depth of your heart. If it is necessary, or if it is good for the for that occasion, it's okay to make prostrations or to make offerings to the worldly deities, but not go refuge. It's if you go refuge, then it's not making prostrations or making offerings or showing respect. The worldly deities are they temporary helpers. They can help temporarily, not ultimately. They're spirits. In order to become rich, then you make some appropriate some kind of a spirit, but the spirit you will never get enlightened or free from samsara by making these kind of propositions. So you kind of make offerings to the devas, to the nagas and things like that, protectors. So this is okay for that purpose, but you don't go refuge. But if you really go refuge, then the refuge, the, give an example. So like you sit under the tree, under the shade of a tree, then when the sun goes, then that the shade of the tree is temporary. The worldly deities are like that. You can't take refuge. You can't take, a permanent kind of shelter or protection by the worldly deities. Then, and in Tibet we have lots of Dhammapalas. It's strange. I didn't go to many places in Tibet, but some places. In some monasteries, that monastery used to be belong to one school, and then it has changed to another school, and there's some lamas, some yidams. Those practices is changed, but the protectors is same as before. It's not changed. So in a way, like the lamas and the Buddhas, that's kind of doesn't matter, But then the Dharmapala or the protector, they kind of continued because they were afraid to change. So they took more important, like the Dharma protectors, than the Yidams and the Lamas. That's why Sharava said, the it says, the Sharava said that the Chushong, the Dhammapala, you call them Dhammapa, and then you think that there's lots of kind of blessings and lots of power, and then you kind of you think that that is very important. So if you go refuge to that, if you do that, then you don't have refuge. It's you will get rid of refuge. So this is very important. There are some wisdom protectors, although they have become enlightened, though they are very great bodhisattvas, and they come or they appear in the form of protectors. There are some like that. That's another matter. That there we can go refuge, and it will not. It will not. But it's very important to understand. In some sutras and tantras, like Wangshuk, the Shiva is said to be the emanation of Sharizik or the Avalokiteshvara. So if you take it like that, and then if you take it as a wisdom being, then it is okay. So if you don't understand that, or if you don't see it like this, then it's another matter. The protectors are the kind of guardians or the messengers or the servants or the protectors who is protecting the Dharma. So it's like servants. It's like the it's the guards. So therefore we should not put them on top. We should put them where they belong to. They are kind of. There's an example. During Manju's and Changqing emperor, the emperor Chelung. There's a name in Tibetan also. Doesn't matter. The Koma Chelung. He used to pretend as a ordinary being, and then he used to travel to see what's going on. He went 3 times to the south of China. And then there's ministers, big ministers, high ministers. They know that he is the emperor. They knew, but if they kind of recognized him, then he will be upset. So then treated the emperor like ordinary person. The Buddha, so in the same way, the wisdom beings, the great enlightened beings, they appear as protectors, like guardians, like protectors, so we should treat them like that, not like the Buddhas, because they would not like it. That's one point. The main point is it's in the Chinese, it's in the India also, in the Tibet, that there is a mountain, then you say there is a deity, then there's a tree, it's a deity, there is a kind of a spring, there is a deity. Everywhere there is a deity. Yeah. Then all the time is spent on kind of worshipping these nagas and the devas and all. In one way, it has some benefits. It has a benefit to protect the environment. There is this one deity, so we cannot cut this tree, otherwise we'll get sick. So it's very, it has some benefits. But if you look from the Dharma point of view, so the Dharma is to work on yourself. It's not, you cannot say it's a bad thing. It's not bad. But as a Buddhist, the working on the path is to work on subduing your mind, to bring, train your mind in to bring also to give dharmas and making these offerings to the Buddha, to make only or making prostrations and only offerings to the Buddha also is not enough to practice. You will not be freed from your sufferings by just making offerings to the last. You have to actually work on yourself. You have to make, you must really change yourself. You must bring wisdom and, the meditation and good conduct in yourself. So that's where you have to make the, practice. Just making, like offerings outside, making smoke and all these things, it doesn't work. When you go refuge to the Buddha, then you have to listen to what Buddha says. And Buddha said, you are your own protector, you are your savior. No others can save you. That's what Buddha said. So you have to understand that. You have to use that. You have to. It's not that you need a teacher, you need Dharma friends, you need maybe also a protector or Dharma protector, but basically it's up to you. Even if you kind of make offerings to the Vajradhara, it doesn't work. You have to work on yourself. That's the main point. By going refuge to the Dharma, you stop harming beings. That's very important. That's also the Sharava said. The Dharma's characteristic is peace. The Dharma is about peace, the undisturbed. And then to harm beings is the opposite of being in peace. So therefore, to harm beings is against the going refuge to the. It's not the violence or harming beings. It's not just killing. If you just you hit the beings, you kind of tie the beings, you just make any suffering, or you cage them, and all these kind of things is harming beings. In the same way, we kind of torture the animals, load them with things that they cannot carry. That's also violence. to harm beings or the violence to the beings is very difficult. Um, in, in, in Vinaya, it is said that to refrain from doing any negative deeds, and that's the main thing. And the Mahayana Bodhisattva vow is with compassion, to help, to do something good for all the beings. So everywhere there's nowhere that you have to help, you have to harm beings, or you have to do violence. Everywhere it's you have to refrain from doing negative. Even if of course, if you do harmful things to others, if you bring violence to others with your own hands, or with that's of course negative. But even when you rejoice that somebody is doing that, that's also negative. That's also bad. It is said that like in the Vinaya, when you break the vow of killing, then if you just think about killing, or if you rejoice of killing, then it doesn't break the vow. That's according to Vinaya. But if you really say that that's very good, and then you kind of if you make a very strong expression of your body and speech that you are happy that somebody is killed, or then you actually lose your vow of not killing. So we have to be very careful. You have to really think properly, and because especially in the world, all these conflicts because of different religions, this is happening a lot. Therefore, like His Holiness Dalai Lama, he's saying that just world peace is not good, because in order to bring peace, then they make war. So it's not good. So we need to actually have the non-violent peace. It's not peace through non-violence. This is what His Holiness Dalai Lama says. We should not just ask for peace, because then some people want to make war in order to get peace. So this is not right. But we have to, bring peace through non-violence. This is what His Holiness Dalai Lama says. We want peace, and then you make, lots of violence, and you make wars, and you make, different kind of negative things. That's not. There are lots of conflicts between different religions. The Buddhism is the nature is non-violence. Nature is the Dharma means non-violence. So this is very, very important to make our mind in peace, to bring, inner peace, to become non-violence, to control our mind, not to be disturbed by negative emotions, to kind of control our mind, to pacify our mind. That's Dharma. That's if our mind is with violence, with with anger, with hatred, with arrogance, and um, so therefore it's very, very important to change our mind, to transform our mind. Uh, not only your kind of not only to your enemies, not only to your kind of close people, but everybody. All the beings, not to act with violence, not to act with hatred and jealousy and things like that. So when you talk about like bodhisattvas, it's not easy. It's quite difficult, because even if you kind of kill a very small, animals or insects, maybe you are kind of violating the bodhisattva's vows. It's very dangerous. We have to think carefully and act very carefully. So if you really think that I don't want to harm that, even if you don't have a great understanding or studies or great other practices, but if you really feel that I don't want to harm beings, I don't want to be violent, then it is enough. It's really great. And then going refuge to the Sangha. The Gyeveshini Sharawa, the Gyeveshini Potowa. These are the Sangha. If you kind of, this is our Sangha, that is their Sangha. If you say like that, then you are not going to Sangha anymore. The negative association, the bad friend or negative friend is not somebody who has like horns or who have a specially kind of negative look. It's not like that. They are Gedempa, they are Pampo, they are like Sakyapa, Kajupa, and then if somebody is doing that, that person is your negative friend, because you are splitting the and you are splitting the Sangha. He said that these kind of people we find more in the elderly monks, and like they try to kind of instruct their younger people. We are Kajupa, we are like this, and they are something like that. So this way, you kind of make a split in the Sangha. So when you go refuge to the Buddha, we have to go refuge all the Buddhas, all the Dharma, all the Sangha. Not that just our Sangha or just our lineage or just something like that. That's not good. That's against the refuge vows. To the giving up Dharma practices or giving up Dharma activities are these kind of things, is giving up Dharma. Like he said yesterday. The different ways of teaching of Dharma, the Buddha himself did, The Buddha said to some people there is Atma, and to some other people he says there is no Atma or there is no self. So even the Buddha taught different things to different people, different ways to different people. So therefore, so there some differences is. Then you cannot say that this is a good dharma and this is not good dharma. It's wrong. So because we don't understand fully the dharma, so therefore we cannot, it's not good to say that this dharma is greater and this dharma is bad, or this. We are the practitioner lineage and others are the teaching lineage. That's also very bad. So these are all kind of giving up dharma practices. Once we split this sangha, then no positive result happens, in this area. So it's like, if the earth is kind of burnt, then you cannot grow, grow plants there. So it is even said that if there is in one place, there is this kind of the sangha is split or sangha is a conflict, then even the people or not beings or the ants in that land might cause to be reborn into the negative world. So therefore, it's very bad. So therefore, if it has to be kind of restored, then somebody who really has the Dhamma, kind of experience completely, has to turn the Dhamma wheel 3 times. And what do you mean by that? Is not just that somebody has to give a teaching, but has to bring this conflict into peace together, has to bring peace in this area, and then only it can be restored. We have Dhamma, many Dhamma, kind of lineages in Tibet, and each one is very good. But then if it becomes like aversion and attachment, see, we are Kajupa, we are especially Kamsangpa, and then like that, and the others are like this, in this way, then it's not good. It's very important to think properly. We have to think according to the Dharma, as we say, the Buddha came to this world, the Dharma is spreading, the Dharma is radiant like the sun. So the Sangha is really in harmony, and then the Dharma will live long. That's what it is said. Then Drukpa Kunle said something like, Dharma friend, however negative deeds they have done, if we do not, change our, if we don't agree with that, then it's okay. When we give advice to the others, even if we cannot change them, if we cannot, reform them, if I don't participate in it, then it is okay. So we have to be careful not to participate in this kind of negative activities. The 7th Karmapa, Chodak Janso, he took an open letter to all Tibet. He said that I have no Karmapas than this is my temple, this is my action, this is my monastery. He said that anybody who enters into Dharma is Karmapas Dharma. Anybody who is entering into the Dharma of Buddhism is the Karmapas Dharma. In Dorje Dempa of Dorje, the great master of India, Dorje Dempa, and these things were sent to Karmapa Tusum Chemba, lots of presents from Bodh Gaya, and said, you will now be in charge of all the, the Buddha's Dharma. So please hold the Buddha's Dharma. So in the same, to holding that understanding, my lineage is not from the India. My lineage is not from China. My lineage is not from Vajradhara. My lineage is the Buddha's lineage, teachings of the Buddha. He said like that. In Tibet, we have many different lamas, different monasteries, and different kind of lineages. But these are all, just different kind of. The lineage is all are same. All lineages are same. It's just the differences of which monastery they belong to, which the lineage of the lamas. But there is no real different teachings. They all are same teaching, and each teaching has also a kind of many different. It goes zigzag. There is no one lineage which is. So all the teachings are practiced by all the Buddhist traditions in Tibet. So therefore, so if you are talking about any Lama or any tradition against them, if you talk, then you are actually giving up Dhamma. So therefore, it's very, very important. So if you understand this, then others, doing positive things, you will understand slowly. So it's not easy to completely transform, but if you can, take these things in mind, then it's okay. As I could, wherever you are, whatever you can do, even if you cannot do more than just one small practice, then you can do that. You should. Then if you do one practice, that's also okay. That's good. Please take this into your heart.